We're back, bitches. What's up, y'all? We took a few weeks off to rejigger our
Re what? We wasn't doing
energy.
nothing.
Come on, man. We need some time off. I needed some time off
The
after the
great
finals.
DA and the great Marcus Thompson definitely need time off.
Needed time off. I actually worked during my quote unquote vacation, writing 4 or 5 stories. So that tells you how much time I took off, actually.
That don't sound like vacation to me.
No, it does not, does it? It does not. And yet it's going down as vacation time, as PTO. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So we're back. We're back on Hoops Adjacent. And we have our guy, Kelly Eco, the man who covers many teams now, not just the Rockets, but he will be covering many teams for us this year. We like that. We like that. But we're going to talk about the Rockets first and foremost.
The coolest dude in the league. He posted a Instagram post. He just had a jersey laid out and it said systems.
I like
number 6, and I was like, "Hey, he didn't even have to say what it was.
Everybody
knows
already.
That was my girl's idea. It was all her. So
that's
I'm
next level
with it.
Ecosystems in the building.
You know what I'm saying? He just drops us. His business card just says systems on it. You know what I'm saying?
I'm telling you, man.
Hey, it's an honor to be in the presence
I wish I had that much
real legends.
Damn. We used to have that. Marcus, remember when we used to have that kind of swag? You remember that?
Man, I don't know. I wasn't making enough back then. Hard to have swag when you ain't making enough.
But you can fake it, though. You can fake it.
Yeah, you definitely can fake it. Definitely can fake
it. Oh, man. So we're not going to go too long today because I had a root canal this morning and I'm not in a good mood. Yeah. So, man, my face just stopped numbing up a few minutes ago. So I stopped drooling an hour ago.
Wow. Novocaine wore off.
Oh my God. It hasn't gotten any better in 30 years. It's the same awful procedure.
Yes.
No question. Man. But Kelly, man, we wanted to talk to you. Your Rockets had a very, very eventful offseason. Man, right. They total restructuring and renewal and all that and change and everything from every aspect of it. But start with, I mean, obviously Ime was the biggest thing. And you kind of knew what he was going to do, but kind of knew they were going to go for a big name coach. But I'm fascinated by not just Van Vliet, but Van Vliet in combo with Thompson. And they already got Jalen Green. They already got KP Jr. So how are all 4 of them guys going to get burned next season?
So when you look at, we'll start with Fred Van Vliet, obviously coming into the team as, that experience established veteran NBA point guard, he's a former NBA champion. There's an understanding that he's going to bring that sense of control, sense of stability at the one. Then if you pair that with a guy in Jalen Green who is talented, he's already shown in his first 2 seasons what he's capable of. He's shown flashes of stardom at times, signs that he still needs to develop his game, and other times now coming off a Team USA stint where they got him to play on the ball, off the ball, and see how he can work with Van Vliet. Now, the understanding I have with Kevin Porter Jr. is that the Rockets know, and they kind of knew this bringing him into the situation, but he can play on and off the ball. Like, he came in as a scorer, as a wing scorer, and they tried the whole thing of converting him to a point guard. It had its ups and downs, but the good thing about that whole stint was that it allowed him to get some reps on the ball. So even if he's not a quote-unquote traditional playmaker, he can, create plays for others at times in the half-court setting. Amen Thompson, he kind of has to have the ball in his hand, just given how he plays. He's not a good shooter. He has to be able to facilitate and see the floor. So there are lineups that may feature, 3 of those guys, because Van Vliet, although he is a traditional lead ball handler, he can also function off the ball, having seen him play alongside Pascal Siakam, alongside Scotty Barnes, Gary Trent Jr., stuff like that. So you may see lineups with, Fred, Jalen, and Kevin, just because of, Kevin was their best shooter last season. Ime has stressed, floor spacing and guys that can knock down outside shots. So the good thing about having those guys in your backcourt room is that you can mix and match certain things, given personnel, given matchups, and kind of see how to maximize the talent on the floor.
I still don't understand what Fred VanVleet was doing. What I mean, I guess obviously getting the most money possible, but I felt
Right.
like he could have gotten money other places. Maybe not the full $44 million, but he
Right.
would have gotten paid somewhere.
Yeah.
What do you think he sees in Houston that makes him say, "Yeah, I feel like doing this. Like I'm gonna get
No, no,
paid, but I
no,
also
no,
feel
no
like
income
doing it."
tax.
Yeah, is that what?
But the truth is, I really think that he aligns himself with Ime Udoka and what he brings because as you've known covering him for a while in this league, Ime has that kind of draw effect on players where you want to play for that guy, you want to run through a big wall for him. And Fred coming off a kind of a down year in Toronto, looking for somewhat of a career reset, a different I guess, task. He's already won an NBA championship. I don't think this is the generation of players that say they got to go win 5, 6, 7 titles. Like if you get your one or your two, I think a lot of players would be perfectly fine with that. So being able to take on a new challenge and lead a young group of guys to, hopefully the playoffs and afterwards, I think that's kind of what aligned with Freddie. Because on the surface, it does look pretty confusing. Like you're 29, 30 years old. You're quote unquote in the prime of your career and you're going to a rebuilding project. So it on the surface it looks kind of confusing, but when you dive into, I guess the belief system with Ime and the whole project that they're building, it kind of makes more sense.
Yeah,
It's
DA, I guess that money is, I guess the only other player to leave the team and
yeah,
get a big deal as a guard anyway was looks like Bruce Brown's 22 million. Everybody else was
yeah.
staying home and
But
getting
to
paid.
your but it is. I mean, it is unusual. Most people go get the bag, but Houston was such a it was such a difficult
It was a
rebuild. It's
mess.
such a it really is. It's a mess, right?
Yeah.
And boy, I mean, he could have maybe made 60% of what he's making in Houston and been on a contending team. But
Right.
look, they could have traded him too. So Toronto, look, they didn't trade him.
Yeah,
They
it's
maybe
both
they
sides of the coin.
That's what I'm
So
saying. Like they should have traded him when they had the opportunity to. They
right.
let him get the free agency, so that's on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do understand. Once you let a guy walk, he's like, all right, let me go get this bag
Yeah.
somewhere. But it's going to be that's four dudes that need the rock, man.
Yeah.
And at some point you got to pass the ball to Jabari. You know what I'm saying? Like,
For
I
sure.
mean, at some
For sure.
point,
Dude,
and
you've already
so
taken that rock. You see how he
you know,
look?
He's
right,
snatching that rock. He's not waiting
right,
for nobody to get
right,
that rock to him.
right,
He'll go
right.
get that.
So there's a lot of dudes, a lot of mouths to feed there, and
Yeah.
so I just wonder how that's going to work. I don't know, man. Like, we'll see. We'll see. They got talent. That's not the question I'm asking
Yeah.
here. Got plenty of talent, but somebody's got to accept a role, and those.
And I think that was the biggest problem over the last 2-3 years. Although the Rockets were operating in a state of chaos, there were
Yeah,
still amidst that chaos was a lack of, I guess, identity in terms of hierarchy. Who was going to be the alpha male, was going to, take the secondary role, the Batman role. You kind of saw that battle between Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. at times. Now with Fred coming in, you would assume he is the quote unquote guy in the clubhouse, and then who's coming after him? That's going to be the real question because, as you said, there's only one ball. There's a lot of guards that need the ball. There's a lot of wings and fours that want to get touches too. Dylan Brooks is also a guy that has spoken to me about he's not coming in to just be a 3-and-D guy. He wants to do more, and we kind of seen him at the Olympics with the Canadian team being able to do more off the ball instead of just sitting in the corner. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how Ime puts all these pieces together. Now, if there's a guy that I think could do this in the NBA, it would be Ime because he's someone that's shown pretty clearly you have to get in line with him or you're going to be on the bench. So um, I do think, there's going to be some system in place where the ball will move around, guys will get their touches in, and then things will fall into place.
And we haven't even mentioned the guy who might be the breakout year of them all. The big man down
Alper
low.
Şengün.
I know. Based on how Ime plays and his penchant for defense, I mean, we've seen him with the center as kind of like the defensive enforcer, rebounder, hub, but the ball's running on the wing, and he's got a lot of wing players. Is there a home in the I don't want to say Ime ecosystem, but in the Ime universe, is there a home for a post up big man who gets buckets and at any point could just kind of take over a game?
I think so. I think when you have, and I think the Rockets they made this shift internally where they're going to allow their young players to explore their games, and they're not going to put them in boxes. So you have a guy in Şengün who, isn't regarded as a good defender right now, but that doesn't mean that, he's going to, like, they're going to surround him with good defenders to try and make things easier on him. And just because of how talented he's offensively, you have to find a way to make that work, right? So there are some schools of thought that want to see Jabari get some time as a small ball five just because of his size and his ability to switch on defense and Ime's propensity for guys that can guard different positions and space the floor. But at the same time, Jabari is not physically ready to be a long-term option at center, whereas Şengün is further along in that department. So I think for Houston, in order for them to find out what they really have, you still need time. You still need a training camp. You still need a preseason. You still need, some weeks and months into the regular season to figure out exactly what he has at his disposal. But right now, I still think there's definitely a home for Şengün in Houston. They have to find a way to make it work because in the last regime under Steven Silas, they didn't get the best out of him at times. They didn't put him in the best situation at times. Now you're coming into a whole new coaching staff. The thinking is that they'll be able to kind of pick up the pieces of the last 2 years and really push this thing along forward.
Man, how bad was it, Kelly?
It was awful.
Hey, we not about to slander my homeboy Steven.
Oh no! I'm not getting. This isn't about.
It's not all on Steven.
I'm riding with Steven Silas all
No,
day.
that's my guy.
Sure.
I love the guy.
I love Steven. I love Steven. It
was bad, but it was bad though. Go ahead.
It was really bad. It was really bad. It was like,
but they put him in bad positions. Like you give him a bunch of teenagers and say, "Coach him." Like what?
Now, granted, he could have done a lot of things differently in terms of, keeping things consistent, systems, and some of the rotation and stuff. But overall, it was a tornado. Like you never knew what to expect on a game-to-game basis. The players didn't know what to expect. The coaching staff they were in over their heads. It was a hard thing to manage, from an overhead standpoint. So I'd have to imagine from a player standpoint. I talked to players that doing team. It was nuts. Like you just didn't know what to. Like from a day-to-day basis, you never knew what you were going to get. So having moved from that to something where you think is now consistent, like you have a whole new coaching staff, you bring in 4 to 5 to 6 vets in the locker room to bring some adults into the room. Now there's the expectation that they can actually really reset the culture, establish some stability, and kind of move things forward a little bit.
I mean, I guess that's the difference between like building a program and having one, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It feels like Steven Silas was trying to build one.
Yeah.
Like, with like sand.
Exactly. Yeah. And
in that situation, you kind of just needed to have like, here's how we do things.
And that was, if you remember, he thought he was going to get the job with
Harden,
James and Russ and guys that have already been to the playoffs and were on the cusp of winning, but they just needed a little bit of a bump to get over the edge. So he had to take what was given to him. He tried his best for a number of years. It didn't work out, and then they went their separate ways.
Jeez, I forgot they got Cam Whitmore too.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I thought that to me is what puts them over the
team.
top. Yeah.
It'll be the fewest assists in NBA history.
I have a 1 to 3 assist turnover ratio.
I think the thing with Cam and Amon now that's different than their previous rookies is that they don't have to be thrown to the fire. Whereas you saw guys like Jabari and Tari, they were just fed to the lions and they were forced to survive on their own. Jalen and Alp, those guys were just go figure it out. Now you have guys that can help you along the way. So Cam doesn't have to come into a situation where he has to excel from day one or hit the ground running. He can learn. He can take his lumps. We can spend some time between Houston, between Rio, just kind of learn the lay of the land and kind of get things under his belt. So it's more of a smoothened out process, if you will.
Okay, so he's going to play some G League then.
I think so. I think just because, kind of similar to how it happened with Kenyon Martin Jr., where the rotation's kind of stacked at his position. So, and you still need to get some game time. So the easiest path and the benefit of that system is that they do a lot of things similar down in Rio with the Vipers as they did with the Rockets. So it allows you to learn that similar system under Coach Nate Burleson, just have everything, set similar to where if you come back to Houston or come up to the Rockets, you know what to expect, you know what to do. Whereas you might be a bit overwhelmed if you're just, saying, "Oh, go figure it out." There's going to be an actual detailed process for the development.
I mean, DA, it's been a long time since I've seen a roster that looks. I mean, it's the most get your money roster I've been seeing in a minute. I mean, like some of these dudes, you're like, yo, why are you here? Like
Uncle Jeff Green.
What are you doing?
Now, that's the one I don't understand.
Londale, like
that's what I don't understand. That's the one. I understand Fred. Fred was like, just give me the bag. I just went to bed. Just give me the bag. But Uncle Jeff, you got choices, bro. You're on the world champions, you know.
Jeff didn't have.
He was there before.
Jeff
He was there before in the bubble with them. So he must really like Houston.
I guess so.
I mean, that ain't that where is he? Is he? No, he's not from Houston.
He's not from the.
No, he's from up here. But it was just like,
but he has an affinity to Houston. I remember talking about him during the finals because he was rocking with Toby and Weegway, who's
right,
Houston cat. It's just somebody's just like, yo, what are you doing? Like, why are you here?
no income tax.
I mean, in honor of ecosystems, this is the most go get your money team.
He'll fit right in.
That's crazy.
So you mentioned Harden, Marcus. So in retrospect, we think that was just a bunch of BS we were hearing for all them months about he was trying to get to Houston.
No, well, how'd you take it, Marcus?
No, I was just curious. Like,
for me? Well, no,
for you.
He legitimately, whenever they were trying to map out the next phase of his career, Houston is arguably the closest thing in his heart to probably California. Like this is his home. Like he has business here. He just finished his JH Town weekend in Houston. He does an annual weekend full of things for the kids. A brunch for the women's organizations. This is his home. He has businesses here. His family is here. Right. That was a legitimate thing. But the more and more that I guess the Rockets went down that path, it occurred to them that James is the kind of player, as talented as he is, everything has to be curtailed to his style for it to work. Whereas
they surely knew that.
and they knew that. But, just the whole emotional, the return, coming back a second chance. Whereas a guy like Fred, he's adaptable. He doesn't have to pound the ball for 48 minutes. He can adapt off the ball. He can move different sets, stuff like that. James is not going to do that at this point of his career. He's just not going to do that. So, it didn't make sense given, the structure of the deal he wanted and stuff like that. So they went a different path.
And do you think, I believe this is true. I hope it's true. I wanted your thoughts that time is going to give like James Harden, those Rockets, like their proper due.
I think so. I think maybe like 5-10 years down the line, because you were there at the epicenter of everything, Marcus. Like those guys, if you talk about teams that gave the Warriors a run at their money,
listen,
Rockets
Kelly,
had them.
You hear LeBron and you hear them talk now like, oh, they didn't have a chance with KD. With KD, you didn't have a chance. You'd have a chance. Houston had the boys on the.
They had them on the ropes.
Yeah,
so on the ropes, like, real tight.
Yes.
We watched 2018 and Cleveland get swept, and it's like you have no chance. It was KD. Bro, they was just playing for their lives, begging for Nick Young to hit open shots.
They had to go, Marcus, they had to go 0 for 26 on 3 for Golden State to win.
Yeah, I just feel like
every 3 they took for a half.
They were the only team that had the, I guess, audacity to stand up to the Warriors, and that should get some credit in NBA history for sure, because that's a dynasty that a lot of teams, they just tucked their tails and ran, and the Rockets and Daryl Morey, to their credit, they just didn't. They said, we're going to stand up, we're going to fight, and you have to show us why you deserve to be in the NBA Finals. And it took 27 missed threes and some questionable calls, in some directions for that to happen. But, at the end of the day, after the dust settles, people can look back and say, the Rockets tried and they gave it their all.
They tried, man. I will never. I had my disagreements with Daryl Moore and some things, but he wasn't afraid, man. He wasn't afraid. He took it. I mean, he took his best shot. You can't. And like Marcus, we covered that series. There was about 5 or 6 times where I was like,
This is it.
That game 6. That
This
game
might
6
be it.
at halftime. You thought it was it?
Bruh.
In Oakland?
Yeah,
I think they were like 12 or 13 at halftime.
I mean, they were down in the first quarter, game 7 by 15, weren't they? Something like that. That's as mad as I've ever seen Steve when I did the interview with him after the first quarter of game 7 in Houston.
Yeah.
He was so angry with this team. I've never seen him that angry before. So yeah, I mean, I give Houston.
They just had a problem with finishing, but to me, it's like getting to the point where where you right there, like that's as much as anybody did. Like pushing them teams to like the brink like that. Like it's nobody crazy. Was doing it. Like remember even the when KD got hurt and they lost game 6 at home.
Yeah.
And obviously Steph goes for 33 in the second half, and it's like insane, right? But then they went and just, swept. I mean, they spotted Portland 20 points every game, and it's
like that. Yeah, exactly.
Like nobody else was pushing them like that. Like
no one else.
That's
tried.
the part. Like you walked into any arena, except for like obviously the OKC Thunder squad.
Right.
Then obviously LeBron 2016. But outside of that, outside of those 2 times, it was always Houston that was pushing them like that. Like to me, that's something. I mean, obviously
I agree.
Judge everything by how you finish. They had a problem with finishing, but they was getting to the finishing points.
Yeah. What did the Warriors say about that in terms of like what was their like? Has Steph or Clay? Well, not Clay's kind of been open about that, but like just the overall Warriors angle of that quote unquote rivalry.
I think they value. I think they gained a lot of respect.
Yeah,
they knew they would beat Houston. They just knew it would be difficult.
Right.
When you hear them talking about, whenever they talk about Cleveland, it's always about 2016. Like it's always about 2016. You forget they played them jokers 4 finals.
That's the only one they remember. Is
2016. But I mean, just when we look at it in the Pantheon macro, a lot of teams had a shot. A lot of teams had a shot. The Portland's had a shot. The San Antonios, the Memphises had a shot. Like
but they didn't make them. They didn't put no fear into them. I think Houston put a little fear.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
So when we look at this, and I know Harden gets whatever he deserves. He gets everything he deserves, but he also deserves that we remember, like, if one team had arguably the greatest team of all time on the brink, it was his squad. It wasn't LeBron's squad. It was his squad that had them jokers. Like, there was a part at halftime where you could see them. They fighting on the bench. They like arguing.
Yeah, it was bickering. Like it was
bad. They was down bad. Like they had to rally to the point where it was over.
Yeah.
I mean, Harden, it wasn't just Harden. Obviously, it's the PJ. To me, that's the difference. The PJ Tucker type.
Right. Ariza and all them guys.
Some of those
Mute.
It was still built on Harden. I just wonder sometimes if he'll ever get like the full credit for that, because live
he probably won't, because of everything else that overshadows what he's done since, in terms of this whole current fiasco in Philly. It's going to put a real scar over his recent time. But like I guess 10, 15 years from now, whenever they do the documentary,
right,
they're gonna look back and see, wow, these guys actually deserve it, because they won 6 or 7 games. Like that was a good team. That was a
very good team. Very good team for a while. All right, so let's talk a little bit about. I always think that y'all have a very interesting owner down there, and a very immature. I shouldn't say immature. A very impatient. That's the word I meant. A very impatient owner down there. And I just wonder how much these moves this summer, whether it was Van Vliet or Ime, were more about the owner being impatient than the GM being impatient.
So one term that ownership is like to use that's kind of trickled down to the whole entire organization is phase two. Whereas phase one of the rebuild was, collecting talent, trying to develop, see what they have, see what they don't have. And phase two is returning to the playoffs. So if you think about when the Fertittas purchased the team back in 2017 for $2.2 billion, this was a team that had just come off of, pretty embarrassing playoff defeat, to the San Antonio Spurs. So now stepping into that situation, and them their first year they win 67 games, they pushed the Warriors to the brink of the NBA Finals. The next year they're still competitive. After that they're still competitive in the bubble. Then going from that to 2 to 3 years of just chaos, that's not what he signed up for, right? So the Fertittas have always known success, right, in their business expertise and their commercial life. So them getting Ime Udoka, splashing the money and getting him, going out and splashing the money and getting a Dylan Brooks and a Van Vliet, they had to pay a premium because you are coming from a rebuilding organization, but they're making those additions with the expectation that there's going to be some substantial improvement, right? I don't think ownership is comfortable with them winning 20-something games ever again, just having seen what it looks like. It's really jarring to compare that to a team that was a quarter away from going to the NBA Finals, right? So over these next, 2-3 years or however long Ime's here, there's a certain level of expectation and assumption that they are going to be competitive. They are going to some point get back into the playoffs, whether it's the play-in, whatever. But it should be a much better team than what we've seen the last 2 seasons.
Kelly, you, Mr. World Traveler, if you had to pick a few spots that you want to check in on this year, like what's drawing where's the ecosystem being drawn to around the
Memphis. I want to see. I just want to see how early the Marcus Smart effect takes place, right? Because they don't have Ja for X amount of games, and they're still expected to be a competitive team in the Western Conference. I want to see, if he's able to come in and be that presence. Also, how they look for the loss of Dylan Brooks, because that's a big loss defensively. How they are able to mask that. If Jaren Jackson Jr. takes that next step that we all expect him to take. Obviously, San Antonio, we want to see the Wemby effect and how that kicks off. But another team is Atlanta. I want to see, that whole Trae Young, DeJounte Murray partnership. Is it really ever going to be more than just good on paper, right? Are they able to actually make some headway in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting stories. Look at Orlando Magic, Paolo Banchero's time with Team USA, being able to kind of take another step in his development. Can he really keep that going, into the regular season, where you now think the Magic are pretty primed to make a big leap, right? And go from this team where they were huddling around the bottom 5 to now, can they make the play? Are they a surprise team in the East? Are they a, potential dark horse? There's so many different places that I want to see stories out of this year. So looking forward to it.
You know what he's doing, DA?
What's he doing?
He running around trying to find out who Houston's next star is going to be, because they're going
because they're going to be coming up for
there is a phase 3, right?
Yeah,
phase out here recruiting.
Moby Dick got to go get the big fish. Oh man, brother Eco.
God. Yes, sir.
As always,
before I get out of here, I got to give you guys your flowers, please, because obviously we all know the legend of DA and Marcus Thompson, but the stuff that you guys do for us without even knowing what you're doing is super appreciated. So while I'm here, I want to give my thanks to you guys, and just know that, keep fighting a good fight for us.
Man, I feel honored, man.
I know, right? Got trying to get me all emotional, man. What you doing? Joking up over here. Come
on. Man, just read Kelly Eco. You're gonna be reading a lot of him this year. and it's going to be great. It's going to be
I'm
fun
gonna give
and
me a
interesting.
Systems jersey. Come on, man. Let me give
Come
you
on, man.
Yeah, come get you one.
a
Yeah.
Nigerian Systems jersey.
Oh, come
Get
on,
my,
I
man.
like
get
it.
my Naija swag on. Let's go.
You know what I'm saying? Outstanding. All right, y'all. Get that podcast on Spotify and Eagle. What was it? Google Play. Where are we? Spotify. Every place you get that podcast. It's been a while since I did this, Marcus. I'm out of practice. So what do they have to do, Marcus, if they can't give us some 5 stars on the review?
Keep it to yourself, you haters. Or we gonna make you run with Kelly Eco across the land, and you can't hang with Kelly.
Can't
Eco.
hang with them. Or
Can't
run with Harden in Houston. Can't hang with.
Oh, you can't hang
No
with.
chance.
Now that's the documentary, Kelly and James.
In the 713. What's got?
What was the one night in Miami? We did the one night in Houston with Kelly, James Harden. Who else we got?
Jay Prince.
Right. Oh,
I'm
my
with
God.
it. I'm with it. That's the documentary. Let's get to writing on that one.
Let's do that. All right, y'all. We out.